Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Weather Seekers podcast. I'm here with David Levin. He has graciously decided to join me on today's podcast episode. I'm excited about this because he is teaching us a lot of neat things, and we'll get into what exactly he does. But thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, thanks, Grant. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so let's get to know you a little bit. Give us your name and like your official title. Like, what is actually your job here in Alaska region?
Yeah, my name is David Levin, and I work. My official title is physical scientist. So I guess that's a little different from the meteorologist. Yeah, meteorologists that typically work in a forecast office. But I work with what's called the Arctic Testbed and Proving Ground here in Anchorage, Alaska. And my physical scientist basically just kind of is more broad than a meteorologist in that, like, I am, most of my focus is on weather since, we are the weather service. But it can vary, there's some things, it can go from, there's some oceanography maybe involved or just maybe some computer science topics that might come up from time to time. So it's a little bit more broad. It allows a little more flexibility in what I do. So,
excellent. And how long have you been in Alaska? Are you from Alaska, or how long have you been here in Alaska region?
I'm not from Alaska, as are most folks, I think, that work for the Weather Service here. But I grew up in North Carolina, lived there for 30 years, and then when I got my first Weather Service job, it was actually in Juneau, so your office.
Hey!
Came there, started my career there as an intern, and then migrated to the High Plains, did a stint at the Cheyenne Forecast Office. And then back to Alaska into my current job since 2020.
All right. Well, that's kind of been everywhere, but nowhere near home.
No, just slowly been migrating west.
Yeah.
North.
So why take the big jump from Carolina to Juneau? What was that first jump like?
So there was an in-between stop.
Yeah.
So I got a job with a private forecasting company in Norman, Oklahoma. That was my very first weather job out of school. So we were routing ships, believe it or not, from Oklahoma.
From Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah. That was my first experience in operational meteorology, and a lot of it was really not so much forecasting as much as it was communicating risk. Advising ships on the best routes to take, not just for storm avoidance, but also to kind of minimize costs. So there's a lot of logistics that was involved besides just, the weather aspect from day to day. Mm-hmm. So I think that served me pretty well, moving to the Weather Service and with our push towards, providing kind of a decision support service, helping people make better decisions with the weather data that they have. So I think that set me up pretty well, to be honest. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned the communicating risk aspect side of it, where it's not just like I think of like wintertime forecasting, where snowfall range will be between 2 and 6 inches, but at the same time, it's like, well, for some people 2 inches is a big impact, while others may see 6 inches, and it's like whatever, it's another day. You have to kind of customize what the customer or what the people need. So that's kind of neat that you had that background before you even got here.
Yeah, it was very customer focused, so we had to get to know our customers. We had to really know what types of vessels they were operating, what they were carrying on their vessels, and all that made a big difference in like what kind of conditions they could handle and what what the individual company's risks tolerances were. So we had to know a lot of that also, and the weather.
Yeah. Well, neat. Okay, so you got a little bit of your job background. What about your education background? Where'd you go to school and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I went to school at North Carolina State University, got my bachelor's in meteorology, my master's in meteorology there back in the early 2000s. And then, that's pretty much the extent of my, higher education, I guess you could say. And then after that, I migrated into the private sector and into the Weather Service.
Yeah. So what brought you to the Weather Service? Why make that jump from the private sector there in Norman to the Weather Service? What brought you to the Weather Service?
Well, it was always a dream of mine to work for the National Weather Service. I think some people grow up and they want to be like firemen or astronauts. I wanted to be a weatherman. So,
all right.
And the Weather Service was, when I was growing up, I had a weather radio in my house, and we would listen. It would go off when there was a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado watch or something like that, and I would just always be fascinated by what was going on behind the radio, and how are they issuing those watches and warnings. And so I just always wanted to work in this agency, and I was fortunate enough to get the job in Juneau when I did. So
yeah, excellent. And so the job in Juneau is what brought you to Alaska region then.
Right.
Were you eyeballing any other offices, or were you just straight to Alaska?
I was eyeballing any office that would let me start.
No, all right.
So there are 122 forecast offices across the country. So I was applying to any and every opening that was out there, and Juneau was the one that gave me my first interview and selected me. And so yeah, that's how I got. I wouldn't say I chose Alaska, but I'm glad I did. So
yeah, it's pretty great up here.
Yeah, it is.
And so you used to be a forecaster at Juneau, and I'm guessing you went to Cheyenne as a forecaster. Mm-hmm. So then why make the switch from forecaster to physical scientist? Like why make that jump?
Yeah, I think there's a multifaceted reason for that.
There's never just one.
Yeah. I've always, so when I kind of became more comfortable in my job as a forecaster, and I found that I was gravitating towards little projects like how to make the forecast process better and more efficient. I would see things, that we were doing on a daily basis that were frustrating or maybe troublesome, things that we were always having to deal with, and I would always be trying to find ways to improve those trouble areas. And for instance, for Southeast Alaska, the winds in the inner channels, they're always troublesome, both for forecasters and for people that are out there on the water. So just looking at ways to kind of improve the way that we can forecast that, become more efficient at forecasting it so that we're not spending so much time on it, so we can do other things as well. So those type of things kind of, I found I was doing more and more of that stuff in my spare time, or on easy or quiet shifts, I would be, looking at these problem areas and trying to come up with solutions. And so, when the job opened up at the Testbed, it was pretty much allowed me to shift my focus from operational forecasting to kind of addressing these problems full time. Mm-hmm. And it just really appealed to me to be able to kind of work on, Alaska forecasting problems as my full time job, as opposed to I have a couple of hours at the end of a midnight shift here where I'm half asleep, so I'll try to work on them here. So.
Yeah, and because that's how, I don't know all that you do on a day-to-day, but at least from my interaction with you on the video calls, is that you seem to be big into teaching new techniques and things and new tools. And so that's what, that's what kind of sparked my interest in what else has this guy got to say? So this is kind of neat to hear that you were big into, fixing the problems and making things better so that down the road, things can be even better.
Yeah, I guess in some sense, I'm an optimist when it comes to the weather. I don't believe there's a problem that we can't just figure out a way to at least be a little better at. So that's kind of where I love kind of getting into those problems and tackling them and seeing if there are ways we can, we're never going to figure out 100% of the time. We're never going to nail the forecast every time, but just going back and seeing how we did, why we might have gone wrong, what kind of decisions we're making internally as forecasters, and then kind of evaluating the quality of those decisions is, to me, a really cool part of my job. So,
yeah, and some of the tools that you developed are still in use at the Juneau office. So, it's it's been a while since you've worked there, but the tools you made are still being used.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Okay, so you're at the Arctic Testbed. So take us through what your job is. A 30,000 foot view, but also the day to day. What's that like?
Yeah, so it's vastly different than
a forecaster.
Yeah. So I guess for folks that don't really know the Weather Service that well, when you're a forecasting position, you're very structured in kind of how you progress through your day. So like you come in and say for a day shift, and you start out, and your first job is maybe the terminal area dome forecast or the TAFs for aviation, and then you proceed from that to editing the gridded forecasts, and then you generate your text products. And so there's a very stepwise process to your day. So in my current position, there's no checklist, or there's nothing, when you come in, there's not like, well, at 9 a.m. I always do this, or at noon I always do this. So it's very much more open-ended. So I have a lot of kind of self-directed projects that I work on. The region's given me a lot of freedom to kind of use my strengths in the ways that I feel like I can use them the best. Some of that is teaching, training, doing webinars for forecasters to help them kind of understand the newest forecasting techniques and tools, and just how to look at the forecast process a little different. So there's a lot of like preparation that goes into that. There's some like small scale software development that goes on. There's GIS work that I do. Every day you might be doing something a little different. There's some national focus group teams that I work with for other folks across the Weather Service, that we all kind of get together, and we may discuss things from like probabilistic forecasting to something very specific like hazard service. How do we disseminate hazards, for instance? So yeah, from a day-to-day basis, it may be completely different from one day to the next what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you said earlier that you have a lot of kind of went to the direction of working on different projects. And so depending on where you are in those projects and which one seems to be the most exciting at the time, I have little side projects I work on too. And sometimes I get stuck, and so I just go work on something else. And so I'm guessing that's your entire job.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's hard to keep track of everything. So, I have this big spreadsheet of tasks and how far along that I am in each task. So if I don't look at that, then it's easy for things to get lost.
Yeah. So in your particular, job, what would be some of these skills that you would need to be able to do that job well?
I think honestly, one of the most important skills that I think is often overlooked is the ability to communicate clearly and effectively, whether that be in writing or verbally. So, there's definitely, I think when people think of my position, they think, oh, well, I have to have computer programming skills, like Python or JavaScript or something like that. And we do use that stuff. Like, that is a part of the job. But like, just because you can write code doesn't mean that you can really take the output of that code and describe to someone what the meaning is and how it applies to their job on a daily basis. So to me, I think communication and just good interpersonal leadership skills are very important for this job, along with the technical aspects like coding, or just your general knowledge of the Weather Service helps, just kind of how the Weather Service works as an agency, and of course meteorology.
Yeah.
But a lot of those other kind of secondary skills can be taught or can be learned easier than, say, some of the more abstract things like communication or like leadership. I think those are tougher things to kind of develop So, when you're looking for someone for a position like this, I think those are skills that kind of, to me at least, would be something that I would look for. So.
And what were some previous jobs that you had, whether weather or non-weather ones, that helped you develop those skills?
Well, if we go way back.
Go back as far as you want.
So out of school, so I got out of grad school in 2010. And so I didn't get a job in my field right away. So what I ended up doing, because I had a background in coaching and teaching, I ended up teaching high school math and coaching high school basketball for a good number of years in North Carolina. For anyone that's grew up in North Carolina, that's like basketball is king there. So.
Yeah, it is. As a Jayhawk, someone from KU, I know all about North Carolina basketball. Oh yeah, of course I do.
Yes. So every parent thinks their child's going to be the next five-star recruit for Duke or North Carolina. So there's a lot of opportunity to coach, develop. Obviously, if you're coaching high school basketball in a place like that, you have to develop your leadership skills, or you're not going to do very well. So I had some great mentors back then in the coaching realm and also the teaching realm that really helped me develop those skills. Then at the time I didn't know where that was going to lead, but this definitely served me well in not just this job, but in all aspects of life. So thankful for that time, even though it was frustrating because I couldn't get a job in my field at that point. So, but
it still got you. It helped you get to where you are.
Right.
Yep. Excellent. Any other jobs that you had that were just fun? That like you look back and I'd do that if it paid the bills. Like any other fun jobs?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the coaching was amazing. I enjoyed it. I ended up in the summers, because I was a teacher and there wasn't a lot of work during the summers for a teacher. I ended up doing basketball camps and clinics, and those were always just really fun to do. I don't know if I could still do it because it's been so long, but it was definitely one of the more fun experiences that I had in a job. So.
Oh, cool. All right. So, this Arctic Testbed job position, it only takes up part of your week. So what do you do outside of work? What are some of the things that you do here in Anchorage that you just enjoy doing? Well,
most of the things that I enjoy doing revolve around the outside.
Yes, I've picked that up.
Yeah. You can probably find me on any weekend that's nice or even not so nice, out in the mountains somewhere. So I backcountry ski in the wintertime, ski mountaineering. I run trails, mountains. I do mountaineering in the summertime. So anything and everything outdoors, mountain biking, hiking, hanging out with my son, teaching him how to ski so that he can beat me one day running up these mountains. So, so that's usually what I'm doing in my spare time.
All right. Well, it sounds like fun. Thanks for being on the show today. I learned a lot, and it's been great having you.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great, and best of luck in Juneau, and I enjoy listening to your podcast. It's really great to see you guys doing that. So.
All right. Well, thanks. And thanks for watching. As always, if you have any questions for us or anybody that we interviewed, you're welcome to email us at juneau.weather@noaa.gov. Just put weather seekers in the subject line, and we'll be able to forward those on. If you have any questions for David, we can pass them along, and we'll get back to you. So thanks for watching.